how do I find opportunities? I think this happened when I realized that when you go across multiple platforms or industries, you will see some certain patterns. And more often than not, there is a fixed pattern based on an existing structure. So what that means is, for example, a standard recruitment process is, hire to retire. The hiring process, you would have sourcing and then recruitment, onboarding, right? And you would see that certain corporations, as they scale up, they typically take on the same tendencies and the same systems, typically. So they would use something like a Taleo or some HCM to onboard somebody, right? And not just that, this structure will give a signal if there is stress or will create tendencies for stress. That's one catalyst. So does that mean that if there is one catalyst that you should take advantage of that as an opportunity, as an improvement opportunity? Not all of the time. In fact, you would need to look for multiple catalysts for opportunity. So besides that, there could be a cultural cause for a problem. There could be a market reason for people changing. For example, there is a change in demand for labor, for example, and that will give another catalyst. The third would be cultural. And this is a bit controversial because having a cultural opportunity will manifest multiple ways, such as employee dissatisfaction, disgruntled employees, turnover, disengagement. Some of these things will actually point you to a direction of a problem. And these risks, if they are not raised to you, could be an opportunity that you come in and, hey, I'll show you this is the problem. Showing that problem, or actually more often than not, people already that are on the field already know that there is an existing problem with that process or segment or whatever that opportunity is. And if that is enough, if there is enough meat in the bone. So there are certain things I look at. So number one is the setup, right? The setup catalyst. Number two, there's an event. There's a market event. That is the second catalyst. The third is a cultural issue. And then the fourth is if there is enough meat in the bone. So number one, the first part just confirms if there is a problem. The problem could be naturally occurring based on the process, the system, the culture. The second is if there is enough meat in the bone. Some problems are very small and not worth paying for. Some problems are very big. How do you determine that? If it is core to the business of the strategy. And here is where I get some feeling sometimes of like they're doing something wrong. And I search for opportunities this way because by this time, your organization should be doing this, demanded by the standard corporate structure, plus, what changes in the market and what your culture is showing me now. And this is how I look for opportunity. I know it's a bit complicated, but if you look closely at your system, your process, if you adopt a particular HCM, it takes away from certain things. For example, a very good example is when you have a demand for a talent, it is required that you raise a ticket. And this happens with not just Snow, ServiceNow, or other procurement systems, ERPs, sales processes. Just say, put in a request, right? It is far, far more efficient if somebody met you up front and tried to elaborate your problem if you do not have the ability to state a problem. And most people do not have the ability to state their problem clearly and through a system. A system gives the owner a assurance that there is some structure, but that means that some of the needs are not properly addressed. So when they say they're trying to internally address their issues, internal customers, more often than not, there's still an opportunity, whatever you do. You can't win both ways, and that is already an opportunity for you to take advantage of. I know I went on, but it will be helpful, trust me.